The moment is dead. Master? Are you completely blind? Can you not see at all? She asked hesitantly. What kind of question is that? It's just, I feel like maybe you can see me. Like, the expressions on my face. You seem to know how you make me feel when you say certain things. And how do I make you feel? Have I made you cry or something? Well, no. But, forgive me. I shouldn't have asked. She tried to shift the subject. Let me help you with that. This garment is very thin, in case you didn't know. People can see right through it. Does that bother you? I only thought you might be ashamed. Yunha, he interrupted, I have a lot of things, but shame is not one of them. I'm shameless and unapologetic about it. That's the kind of man you're working for. Does that mean you are neither ashamed nor sorry about that kiss? He paused thoughtfully. Why would I be ashamed to get a taste of what is mine? Could you please let go of me, master? What's wrong? Have I scared you now? Do you find me despicable? Such a pity. I still find you quite entertaining. He coughed suddenly. Cough, cough. I hope I'm not about to get sick. I should have dried off before going to bed last night, he muttered, his voice slightly strained. Yunha, lost in thought, worried. Will that keep happening between us? What if he starts asking for more? Or what if he retires me from reading duty? Her thoughts were interrupted by a voice calling her name. There you are, Yunha. She turned to see Horim approaching. Hi, Horim. What are you doing over here? All by yourself. I've been looking for you everywhere, he exclaimed cheerfully, holding something in his hands. I've got a little something for you, fresh tiak hot out of the steamer. They look good, right? I heard you like them sweet, so I glazed them with honey. These are for me? She asked, surprised. Of course. You shared your tiak with me, so I thought I'd return the favor. Suddenly, Horim's expression shifted, and he stepped in front of Yunha protectively. Get behind me, Yunha. What's wrong? A snake in the middle of winter? How come it isn't bromating? Horim muttered, confused. This is a dangerous one. You should step away. It probably came down from the mountain. I'll take it back. Before he could finish, Horim gasped in pain. Horim, stay still. We need to get the venom out. Yunha cried, rushing to his side. Yunha? Stop, he stammered, wincing. Just then, a voice boomed from behind them. What are you two doing out here? What are you two doing out here? A voice demanded suddenly. Yunha turned quickly, and master, she stammered. His cold, unflinching gaze shifted to the guards. Your discipline over the guards is lacking, Yulj. All this fuss over a viper? Pathetic. His hand brushed against Yunha's. Your hands are burning. Do you have a cold? He asked, his tone dismissive but curious. Perhaps. I'm not sure, Yunha replied, still shaken. I swear, he could see, she thought. He saw the viper too. There was no hesitation when he swung his sword. But she quickly brushed aside her suspicions. There's no way to know for sure, but I guess it doesn't matter. Whether he can see or not won't change anything between us. I can't leave him, and I won't betray him. He knows this too. Yunha's mind wandered. What did we come here for anyway? Why did he ask me along? She grew worried for Horim, hoping someone was taking care of him after the snake bite. The bite didn't look serious, but viper venom needs to be treated. Her thoughts were interrupted by his voice. Is that the best one you have? Yes, the very best, the shopkeeper responded eagerly, showing a delicate butterfly hairpin. This would look great on her too, the master remarked casually. Master? Yunha protested, flustered. Pick whichever one you like. I won't be able to tell which looks good, obviously. No, I really don't need one. And I don't go anywhere. I can't imagine when I would wear it, Yunha stammered nervously. Wear it when you come to read for me, he said, his tone firm. But master, you won't be able to see me wear it, Yunha pointed out softly. I can see with my fingers, he replied, a faint smile playing on his lips. I'll feel how it adorns your hair. No need to be frightened, nor to scorn. Yunha felt a mix of confusion and apprehension. What's wrong? Have I scared you now? Do you find me despicable? He asked, his voice low. Such a pity. I still find you quite entertaining. Could this be his way of apologizing? She wondered. I'd rather he just said he was sorry. She sighed inwardly as they continued walking, now with a bag full of trinkets. The streets were bustling, and his cane seemed useless in the crowd. "Seems I'll have to rely on you some more," he said, coughing again. "That's fine. Stick close." But her sentence was cut off as he coughed again, this time harder. "I was right. You did catch a cold. You're certainly making me feel bad about upsetting you last night." "You upset?" "I wasn't upset," she trailed off. Suddenly, a familiar voice called out, "Is that you, Yunha? What are you doing here?" "Young Master Sahun's," Yunha exclaimed, surprised to see him. Sahun's gaze shifted to the man beside her. That man, lavish attire, and a cane, is it him? He thought. "Does Yang know? Have you told her where you are? What you're doing?" "I told her," Yunha began but was cut off by the master's sudden interruption. "Your fever seems to be rising," the master remarked coldly. "You're burning up like I did after all last night's drinking. Or is it more like the way you did when you got soaking wet in front of me?" "Lead the way, Yunha. Let us return home so I may go on taking good care of you," he said, his voice firm, though with an unsettling edge. "And master, come quickly now, before you sour my pleasure," he ordered, tightening his grip on her. Sahun called after her desperately. "I will write you soon. Please take care." Yunha glanced back, her heart heavy. "How could you?" she thought, torn between her loyalty and the weight of Sahun's words. "You were right, Sahun. The place where Yunha is staying, it's Grand Prince Hayun's private residence," the voice confirmed, its tone tinged with surprise. Sahun's suspicions had been confirmed. "I heard the rumor about His Highness taking in a reader, but I didn't expect it to be Yunha," the speaker continued. "I'm still looking into it," they added, "but from what I found out so far, your mother made a deal with Yang. Something about driving you and Yunha apart." Meanwhile, the Grand Prince himself had been causing a stir with his rare visits to the hibiscus. "Has Lord Yun said anything about it yet?" Sahun asked. "My father only told me that Grand Prince Hayun was in Harry. He didn't share anything beyond that," the voice replied. "Would you mind keeping an eye on Yunha, Yang Hyung?" Sahun requested. "Not at all. That's what friends are for. I'm getting more curious about this mysterious Grand Prince Hayun myself," Yang Hyung answered cheerfully. Meanwhile, back at the Grand Prince's residence, Yunha was struggling with a rising fever. "Your fever seems to be getting worse," the prince observed, his voice calm but with a hint of amusement. "You're burning up, just like I did after last night's drinking. Or is it more like how you were after getting soaking wet in front of me?" "Huh? Master, Yunha murmured, her mind clouded by the fever. "Yunha, you're burning up. You should be resting, not worrying about writing letters," the prince insisted firmly. "The medicine will kick in soon. Try to get some sleep." "But how did it get this bad?" "I felt fine all day." Yunha's voice was weak, confusion mixing with exhaustion. "You made it worse by not staying home," the prince scolded gently. "You should have rested." "I didn't know. I've never really been sick before," Yunha admitted, feeling overwhelmed. "Maybe I'll take a short nap, like you said." "Will you stay here and wake me up later?" she asked softly. "There's no need to ask. Just close your eyes already," the prince replied, though he grumbled under his breath. "I hate taking care of sick people, unbelievable. Sick from a cold, but she can handle tiger hunting?" he mused, shaking his head in disbelief. Elsewhere, the conversation turned to someone they had recently encountered. "That man we met, that was Lord Yun's bastard. Still unmarried, despite his age. What a joke," someone remarked with disdain. Just then, a visitor arrived. "Your Highness, might you forgive this sudden visit? I pray I have not interfered." "You haven't," the prince replied coolly. "I was actually hoping you would come by. After all, we didn't get to catch up when we met at the hibiscus." There was a sudden jolt of realization. "What were you all doing there?" "Waiting for me to show up," the prince inquired. "If all the officials are here in Harry, then who's guarding the capital?" he mused. "Yes, what a coincidence that was," the visitor responded thoughtfully, still pondering whether the prince was truly blind. As the conversation continued, the visitor offered a suggestion. "While your Highness recuperates here in Harry, if you need someone to talk to, I'd be happy to oblige." "Oh," The prince raised an eyebrow, intrigued. The visitor then mentioned something of interest. Speaking of companionship, I heard through the grapevine that you've taken in a reader. I happen to have an interesting book with me. How about we have the reader recite it for us? The prince gave a curt nod to Yulj. Go fetch the girl. But, my lord, Yulj began to protest, concerned for Yunha's condition. I don't care if she's passed out asleep, the prince interrupted coldly. Throw water on her if you have to. My guest wishes to hear a reader recite his book. As his host, it's only polite to share. The cold bit at the air, and one of the men standing outside muttered, Sheesh, it's freezing. I almost pissed myself waiting for that reader. What's taking her so long? A bucket of water doesn't take this much time to throw. Another guard nearby replied with concern. She's still burning like charcoal. A good night's rest should help her by morning, but... And what about Lord Seo? Did he say anything? The first man asked, curiosity lacing his tone. No. He came by earlier to check on her but left after seeing she was asleep. Who knows what he's thinking? The other man trailed off. Come with me, the superior instructed, walking toward the reader's room. The two approached her quarters quietly, the first guard wondering aloud. That must be the reader's room. I hadn't heard she was sick. Maybe I'll figure out this mystery myself. He peered through the door, his eyes widening at the sight. A reader, he says. That's a plaything if I've ever seen one, he muttered under his breath, marveling at Yunha's beauty. Her skin, it looks smoother than the most expensive silk. Does it really? A deep voice cut through the air. Why, your highness? The guard froze, realizing the prince had been standing behind him. She told me she was homely, the prince remarked, his voice laced with amusement. The guard stammered, trying to recover. A blatant lie. Your highness. She's so pleasant that no courtesan house could offer anyone finer. The prince's tone turned darker. That beautiful, you say? Yes, your highness. A creature that's special? I can't help but imagine how she feels, the guard said, a greedy undertone slipping into his words. I see, the prince replied, his voice quiet. A pity she is out like a light. I didn't know she was this ill when I ordered her to be woken. The guard tried to brush it off. That's all right, your highness. She can read for us some other time. Wrong. The prince interrupted sharply, his voice turning icy. I never intended on letting you hear her voice. The guard's blood ran cold. Pardon? In a flash, the prince's fury erupted. Should I gouge your eyes and rip out your tongue? Or perhaps I should get poetic and skin you for coveting my lady's flesh. Either way, the dogs won't be hungry tonight. The guard panicked, falling to his knees. Please. No. Ignoring the pitiful display, the prince turned away, his focus shifting back to Yunha, who lay feverishly in bed. He reached out to touch her hand, firm and warm despite her condition. It's odd, he mused quietly. When I think of your voice, your scent, the thoughts storming in my mind seem to settle. His mind wandered, reflecting on what could have been. Had you been born into a wealthy noble family, perhaps we could have met when I still had the throne. It isn't common for someone of your status to know how to read and write, yet you managed, and in another language's script, no less. You tempt me more and more, he reminisced. You remind me of when I was a boy, raising and loving that tiny fawn. Suddenly, Yunha stirred, mumbling, Sahun? Young master? Is that you? Her voice was weak, her fever still clouding her senses. Why are you here? What if someone sees us? Sahun, now standing beside her, reassured her gently. Don't worry. No one can see us. Confusion swept over her. What are you doing? She asked. Leaning closer, Sahun whispered, Yunha, do you love me? His voice was soft, but there was an edge to it. You must want me so much, to be longing for me even when you're suffering. Answer me, Yunha. Do you want me? Sahun's voice was low and persistent as he asked, Do you love me? You must want me so much, to be longing for me even while you're suffering. Answer me, Yunha. Do you want me? Yunha's mind swirled with confusion. Oh, Sahun, please don't ask me that, she whispered. We're not meant to be. We shouldn't be doing this. He didn't seem fazed by her hesitation. If not me, Then who? Whose hands do you want on your body? Try to picture his face. His tone carried an edge, probing her thoughts. She resisted, trying to clear her mind. I shouldn't, but Sahun's voice persisted, his words growing more intense. So, there is someone on your mind. Whose hands do you want on your body? Whose face are you thinking of? Her thoughts spiraled, a sense of unreality washing over her. Is this a dream? She wondered. It better be. I shouldn't be thinking of Lord Seo right now. There, Sahun murmured soothingly, his breath warm against her skin. You're all right. These hands grazing you belong to the man you desire. Yunha gasped, trying to steady herself. Stop, you're scaring me. Sahun's voice was quiet, but insistent. Is that all I'm doing? How do you feel down here? His hand moved with an unsettling familiarity. Because from what I can feel, you want me to go deeper. Her body tensed, overwhelmed. My body, it feels like it's going to burst. And I can't breathe, she thought, trying to suppress the growing sensations. Yet, as unsettling as it all was, she couldn't deny her conflicting emotions. But, I don't hate how it feels. Sahun's words cut through her thoughts. I see it now, why all those filthy men are drawn to you like moths. There's something so alluring about you. Something they'll never have. His tone hardened, possessive. Because you're mine. Her breath hitched, his touch igniting strange feelings. Here, he asked, his voice darkly amused. How does that feel? Yunha's voice wavered. It feels strange. I said be honest, Sahun commanded. Tell me. Torn between fear and something else she couldn't name, Yunha stammered. It feels good. Yes, he encouraged. More. Her body responded despite her confusion, her hands instinctively gripping his. Sahun's voice was full of satisfaction. Look at you, gripping my fingers. Double-8, she gasped, unsure of what to do. But Sahun didn't stop. No, Yunha, don't you ever forget. There is only one master you serve, and only one man you desire. It will always and forever be me. His words echoed in her mind, sinking deep into her thoughts as she struggled to breathe, her heart pounding with emotions she wasn't ready to confront. When Yunha finally opened her eyes, Gari was there, his voice filled with surprise and concern. Oh, you're up. Hey, Gari, she replied weakly, still groggy. My goodness, what happened to you? Gari exclaimed, clearly worried. You've been out for 5 days straight, 5 days. Yunha's eyes widened in disbelief. Good grief. Yeah, 5 days, Gari confirmed. You woke up here and there, but I figured you wouldn't remember. How are you feeling now? I feel great, actually. I guess I needed the rest, she admitted, still processing the fact she had been unconscious for so long. Gari pointed to something beside her bed. What are those? Oh, they're for you. Lord Seo brought them. Yunha blinked, surprised. Lord Seo? He was here day and night, taking care of you while you slept away. You had no idea, huh? Not only did he feed you the medicinal tea himself, but he also carried you to the bathhouse and gave you a bath too. Yunha's face turned pale. The bathhouse? Her mind reeled with a sudden, unsettling realization. Oh no, that wasn't a dream. The memory rushed back, the indecent dream she thought she had. It can't be, that wasn't real, she murmured under her breath.
What?
Gari asked, confused. What did you say?
Oh no.
It's nothing, she quickly dismissed, trying to shake off the embarrassment. Switching the topic, she asked, what about Horim? Is he okay? Gari rolled his eyes, clearly annoyed it had taken her this long to ask. Took you long enough to ask. He's fine, never better. Relieved, Yunha smiled slightly. Now that you're back, Gari added, I have something for you. What is it? She asked, curious. Someone from the bookshop came by. He left this with me. Gari handed her a letter. That must be from Mr. Song. What brought him here? Yunha muttered as she opened the letter. The letter revealed shocking news. Dear Yunha, it began. I'm writing to let you know what has happened in town, since I doubt you had a chance to hear the news while staying with Lord Seo. I don't mean to startle you, but I think you should know. Master Cho is adamant about taking Iana in as his mistress, but He got himself into a little accident at the hibiscus and was castrated. His wife got involved last night, and now rumors are running rampant that she got so upset she pulled Yana's hair out. Just as Yunha processed the information, the scene shifted to Sahun and Yang. Sahun, his voice tight with anger, confronted her. I knew it. The rumors were all true. Yang trembled slightly, startled by his sudden appearance. How did you find me? Sahun's face was hard as he assessed the damage to her. Was it really Master Cho's wife who did this to your face? Without waiting for a reply, he grabbed her arm. Come with me. Yang hesitated. Young master, I'm a courtesan. I shouldn't be here. People will talk if they see us. Please, let me go. But Sahun's grip tightened. You think I care about what people say? You're wrong, Yang. I don't let rumors get to my head. That Master Cho, though. I've heard enough about him to be concerned. Did you know he has 5 mistresses and 7 children? Yang's eyes filled with unease. What did my mother say? Sahun's voice turned bitter. That you're no longer needed at the hibiscus? Is she hoping to sell you off to some other man looking for a mistress? Yang, her voice shaking, asked, Tell me the truth, young Master Sahun. I'm not the one you're concerned about, am I? You're not worried about how Master Cho humiliated me. You're worried about how Yunha will push herself even more to make enough money for both of us. Sahun's eyes darkened. You're right. In fact, I'm so concerned for her that it's making me furious with you. If you think about it, all of this is your fault, isn't it, Yang? Of all things, you chose to become a courtesan. Now, Yunha is out there somewhere, struggling to get you out of the mess you created. He grabbed her forcefully. You should not have let my mother talk you into selling your body. You should have waited for me. I was going to save you both. Yang's voice softened with sorrow. Young master, let go of your desire for Yunha. I beg you. Madam already knows how you really feel about my sister. A nobleman like you shouldn't be in love with a lowborn like her. Sahun's frustration boiled over. You have no idea how long I waited. I taught Yunha how to read and write because I fell in love with her. I meant to get her adopted into a noble household.
10 years, Yang.
I planned this for 10 years. His voice lowered, filled with a mixture of pain and anger. So you're the one who needs to stop. Stop speaking to me with the same face as hers. Yang groaned softly, pain laced with frustration. Young Master Sahun. She murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Inwardly, she hoped he would stay mad at her, though her life had been filled with resentment for as long as she could remember. She knew herself well enough. She could bear whatever came her way if it meant Yunha would have a better life. Sahun, however, had something else in mind. His expression darkened as he smirked. What if I asked you to take Yunha's place? Could you handle that too? His tone was laced with malice as he leaned closer. If my desire for her troubles her so much, then you should take care of it for her. Confused, Yang froze. What do you mean? She asked, her voice trembling. Unclothe me, Sahun demanded coldly. Offer yourself to me, Yang. Do what you do best, and I might just be convinced to stop pursuing Yunha. Yang's heart raced, her mind clouded by fear and dread. Why, young master? She stammered. Sahun sneered, pressing on. Riddle me this, Yang. I am a bastard, born to some whore, branded a sinner from birth. But you, on the other hand, chose the life of a courtesan. That makes you a sinner by choice. We're not so different after all, wouldn't you say? Before Yang could answer, Lord Yun stepped in, catching them in the midst of the confrontation. He observed the scene silently before muttering under his breath, I could not have picked a worse time to stop by. He hesitated, then decided, I should come back another day. Despite the tension, he greeted them formally. Greetings, Lord Sahun. Sahun barely acknowledged him, his focus still on Yang. Meanwhile, Lord Yun gave instructions to his servant. Bring that girl to me once he's done, he ordered. Yes, my lord, the servant responded, though his thoughts were elsewhere. Oh boy, Sahun, things are about to get complicated for you, he mused silently. As the political tension grew behind the scenes, another conversation was taking place elsewhere. Listen carefully. Why? A voice commanded with urgency. Do not believe what anyone else tells you. The throne belongs to you, and only you. You must never forget that. Understand? Why, dutiful as always, responded, Yes, Your Highness. We must begin preparing for the future, the voice continued. You'll need shadows, ghosts who can keep you safe. A servant interrupted the conversation with bad news. My lord, Chun-Sam did not make it. Suspicions will only continue to grow. We could see mock attacks coming from every direction. The figure smirked. As I hoped. I need them to keep suspecting me, to be on their toes, questioning my every move. I want them so flummoxed by me that they're restless day and night. At least, until wife finally takes the throne. Another servant entered, his voice filled with curiosity. What about the reader? She's been waiting for your return. It sounds like she's heard about what happened to her sister. A chuckle echoed through the room. Let her in on your way out, came the amused reply. Yes, my lord, the servant replied before retreating. Yunha entered hesitantly, her heart heavy with worry. Master, it's me, Yunha. I'm terribly sorry to bother you like this, but I was wondering if you could be so kind as to let me return to town for the night. There's something urgent I need to follow up on. Her request was met with concern. I don't think it's a good idea for you to be out and about when you're not feeling well, her master replied. Oh, but I'm not sick anymore, she quickly reassured him. Gari told me when I woke up that you took care of me while I was unwell. For that, I'm truly grateful, master. A cold, unsettling laugh escaped him. It's such a curiosity why you play dumb with me, he said, his eyes narrowing. You know there's a better way to ask. Don't be so rigid. He motioned for her to come closer. Just come closer, he whispered, and melt me away with that voice of yours. Master, I need your help, you'd say, and I'd be all ears. Yunha stood before Lord Seo, her heart racing as she struggled with the tension between them. His words dripped with a cold curiosity. It's such a curiosity why you pretend to be so naive with me, he said, his gaze intense. You may leave if you wish, but you must return before sunrise. Leaving his presence, Yunha hurried down the street, finally arriving at Mr. Song's shop. Mr. Song. I'm sorry it took me so long. Her voice trailed off when she saw a familiar face. Yang, she exclaimed in surprise. Yunha. Yang greeted her with a smile. What fortunate timing. I was just dropping off a message for you. But Yunha's eyes widened in horror when she saw the bruises on Yang's face. Your face? What happened to you? Yang gave a soft, almost resigned smile. Oh, Yunha. Master was right. I've been playing dumb. You see, on my way here, my mind wandered. I was thinking about the look in his eyes, the sweet things he said, and how I foolishly let my guard down. Meanwhile, I was sinking deeper into the abyss. Yunha felt her chest tighten. This is just awful, she whispered, guilt and worry gnawing at her. Yang took her hand gently. Everything is going to be all right, Yunha. Madam took care of Master Cho for me, so there's nothing to worry about. Yunha stared at her sister, concern etched on her face. You don't know how lucky I am not to have turned into a castrated dotard's trophy mistress, Yang added with a wry smile. Oh, my baby sister, have you been skipping meals? Please don't tell me you've been stressing yourself out over me. Tears welled in Yunha's eyes. Hick, she sobbed quietly. Yang's face softened, her voice almost pleading. Yunha, should we just run away together? We don't have to keep living like this. We can leave this town, go somewhere far away, and start over. Just you and me. We can find a place where no one knows us or cares about who we are or where we come from. Before Yunha could respond, a familiar voice cut through the air. I thought I told you to return before sunrise, Lord Seo said, his tone icy. But it seems to have entirely slipped your mind. Why is that? Do you no longer respect me? The air between them was heavy as Yunha faced him, her resolve hardening. She lowered her head. Master, I woke late. I promised not to take any of the money you offered, but I would still stay by your side until you dismiss me, doing anything and everything you ask of me. If I were to do all that, would you be able to get my sister Yang out of the hibiscus? Lord Seo looked at her, his expression unreadable. I could do that, he said slowly, but rumors will spread that I'm taking her as my wife. After that, I would only be remembered as the blind libertine who threw his life away for a courtesan. Yunha hadn't thought about the consequences. I hadn't considered that, she whispered. Lord Seo's eyes narrowed. Regardless, I will do it for you, if that is truly what you desire. But under one condition. You must cut off all ties with her. You won't be able to see her or speak to her ever again. You will serve me until I say otherwise. Do we have a deal? Yunha's heart sank. She knew it was a foolish thing to ask, but her desperation had driven her to it. I knew it was a silly thing to ask, she whispered, her voice breaking. I should have known better. But I was so desperate. She stepped back, her eyes filled with determination. This won't do. I can't waste any more time here. My sincerest apologies, Master. I should not have asked for such a ridiculous favor. Please forget I even asked. Lord Seo's gaze darkened as Yunha continued, but Yang is my only family. I'll have to find another way to help her before it's too late, which means I must pack my things and leave tonight. I wish you the very best, and thank you for everything you've done for me. You have been so kind, and it was a blessing to have worked here. I won't ever forget your generosity, Master. She turned to leave, but Lord Seo's voice cut through the air like a whip. Sit back down. Yunha froze. Sit back down, I said, he commanded, his anger barely contained. His voice was sharp and cold. Why, you little... You will not dare do this to me. The master sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. I should never have forgotten what a little bitch you are, he spat, his eyes narrowing. You were fortunate to have bewitched me as long as you did. Too arrogant for a commoner, and far too comfortable with your brashness. His lips twisted into a cruel smile.
Fine. Consider your wish granted.
I'll turn a blind eye if you stay in touch with your sister, on one condition. He paused, leaning closer. You must serve me with more than just your voice. Yunha's heart raced as her mind reeled. She didn't need an explanation. The implication was clear.
But why?
Why her? Her confusion bubbled over, and she dared to ask, Why me, Master? The master dismissed her question with a cold laugh. You don't need to understand anything, he said. Once, I kept a fawn. It would tremble in fear, just like you. Every day, it cried for its mother, and the sound was unbearable. I sent my men to kill every deer on the mountain because I hated it so much. His eyes darkened as he recalled the memory. I was dragged in front of the king and punished, but it didn't hurt. Because for the first time in my life, something belonged to me, and only me. Yunha recoiled, feeling trapped. I'm not a fawn, she whispered. I'm not one of your servants, nor am I a courtesan. I don't have noble blood. I'm just a town girl. Why would you? That's not true, he cut her off sharply. If I will it, you can become any one of those things. That's the power I have over you. His grip tightened as he glared at her. So tell me, which will you be? Or are you foolish enough to think I'm doing this because I have feelings for you? Yunha's mind raced, torn between fear and hopelessness. Am I just a form of entertainment for you? She asked, her voice shaky. He chuckled darkly. I had plenty of time to think on my way back from town. I wondered if my life might have some worth if I sold it to someone like you, a man of great power and fortune. But I realize now how stupid that was. I was foolish to think a lowborn like me could ever have any real value. Her voice softened as she bowed her head in submission. I shall be whatever you wish me to be, Master. Just, please help my sister. But before she could finish, he grabbed her roughly, his voice full of mockery. Biting your lip to be strong? How brave, he sneered. Aren't you just amazing? Yunha's body trembled as he commanded. Spread your legs. Pardon? She gasped, her heart pounding in her chest. You agreed to entertain me, he said with cold amusement. So spread your legs and show me how you pleasure yourself. With gusto, her mind screamed at her to run, but he didn't seem to care. Run if you're afraid. I won't stop you. She could barely breathe, her body shaking. She whimpered, fear and helplessness consuming her. Try harder, Yunha, he taunted, his voice sharp. You need to get it ready. I'm going to shove myself in there very soon and fill you up inside. Master, she cried out, but it was too late. His hands were on her, and her world spiraled into a nightmare she couldn't escape. Yes, Yunha, he murmured, his voice dripping with malice. Let me hear you cry. Cry against me.
Cry until the sunrise.
Yunha's breaths came out in shaky gasps, her body trembling under the weight of fear and pain. The master's voice, low and mocking, filled the room. It's a shame I'm a blind man, he said, his lips curling into a cruel smile. I can't see the expression on your face right now. He's lying, she thought, her mind racing. But the fear of what was happening made it hard to focus. If you tell me the face you'd like me to see, I'll do my best to make it for you, he continued, his tone cold. No need, he added with a sinister edge. I'll bring it out of you myself. Yunha tried to steady her breathing, her mind shouting at her to stay calm. Don't let him get to you, she told herself. But the sheer terror of what was happening overwhelmed her. How could something so monstrous even go in? His voice interrupted her frantic thoughts. Why the long stare, Yunha? Are you begging me to put it inside you now? He sneered. And no, master, she managed to stammer, her voice trembling. His grip tightened as he pushed deeper. It hurts, doesn't it? He asked mockingly. Of course it does. I'm ripping right through you. His voice lacked any trace of empathy. Tears welled in her eyes as she whimpered. Master, please, it hurts. Shush, he commanded. You're not even halfway through yet. His movements were relentless, and with each push, her body shook with pain. Something shifted within her, a new, terrible feeling she couldn't quite place. Repulsive, she thought, her heart pounding. I'm nothing but a vessel for him. But then he spoke again, his words dripping with cruel desire. How repulsive is it that I find you so breathtaking? He chuckled, noticing the faint blush on her cheeks. Are you starting to feel it, Yunha? This is just the beginning. His teeth grazed her skin as he leaned in closer. Soon, I'll have you completely tamed. Yunha's mind screamed in rebellion, but her body was too overwhelmed to resist. He had trapped her in this twisted game, and she felt utterly powerless. Didn't I tell you? He murmured. There is only one master you serve, and only one man you desire. It will always be me. Her body trembled as she tried to protest. Wait, this can't be, she gasped, her voice barely audible. He continued, unbothered by her pleas. After that night in the bathhouse, I couldn't control myself, he said, his voice dark. I tried to relieve myself over and over, but nothing worked. All I wanted was to do this, he growled, slamming into her again. Yunha's body tensed as she whimpered in pain. Master, if you're done, she tried to plead. Done, he scoffed. Who said I'm done? Unfortunately for you, I'm far from finished. This won't be over until I say so. His grip tightened, and she realized, with a sinking dread, that her torment was far from over. Yunha gasped for air, her body trembling, as the master's mocking voice echoed around her. Oh, Yunha, what am I going to do with you? His words were cold, but there was an edge of twisted amusement in them. Her body was betraying her, reacting to his every move, despite the pain and humiliation. She had wanted to hate every second of it, to feel nothing but disgust, but instead, something unexpected happened. She felt a strange sense of safety around him, even though his words and actions were laced with cruelty. This bizarre comfort only made her long for him, a yearning she couldn't control, pulling her away from the harsh reality of her future. All this time, she thought bitterly, I've tried to live like a man. She had believed no one would care for a woman who fought, hunted, and dressed like a man. To her, grace had seemed impossible to achieve. Yet here she was feeling completely defeated. Everything I've done has been in vain. The master's servant interrupted her thoughts, announcing, My lord, prepare to set out for the hibiscus. Yes, my lord, came the reply, as the servant quickly scurried away to carry out the order. Yunha's mind spun. Wait, wasn't he supposed to be blind? She noticed the master wasn't even using his cane anymore. Can he see now? She couldn't understand what was happening, and the uncertainty filled her with even more dread. "You three," the servant ordered others, "go clean his room now." "Why, yes, my lord," they responded, rushing to obey. One of them, watching from the sidelines, muttered under his breath, "What has gotten into him?" I wasn't going to interfere, but now that he's even bedded her, his voice trailed off, his tone filled with concern. "I need to step in and fix this before it's too late." He knew there was a deeper reason for their presence in Harry, and he couldn't let the master forget their purpose. In another part of the estate, a tense conversation unfolded. "I understand what you're saying, master," someone remarked, "but I'm afraid there isn't much I can do. Yang is a courtesan. She gets paid to bed men. That's the life she chose, and frankly, she brings in the most business." The master's voice turned sharp. "Will the hibiscus have to shut its doors without her? Surely she isn't the only one keeping you afloat. I took you for a much better businesswoman than that." "Please, master," the person replied nervously. "Yang is nothing but a low-born whore. She won't be of any use to you." The master wasn't swayed. "That's not the point. I made a deal with the whore's little sister. Yunha promised to serve me for the rest of her life, and in return, I vowed to get Yang's name off the register. But now, Yunha spends most of her time worrying sick about her sister, and her constant sullen expression is starting to get on my nerves." He continued, his voice growing more frustrated. "You should have taken her offer instead of scaring her away with a price she could never afford. It's a crucial skill, knowing when to back off. It's also the key to living a longer life." There was a brief pause before the master added, "You know, her father used to be a reader, too. He lost his life for getting too close to some noblewoman." The other person listened carefully as the master spoke. "I guess the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Yunha, just like her father, sought thrills beyond books. She acted as if she was better than the rest of us for knowing another language, but in the end, she's not so different." "You sure know a lot about Yunha," the other commented. "The whole town knows about her," the master replied. "Just like they knew about her father's charm and how he seduced local women. Or how he was beaten to death in front of his own daughters." There was a pause as the conversation shifted. "Did she not tell you how she lost her father?" the master asked. "I remember clearly that she was there." Before the other could respond, the master cut him off. "You may leave, Shamuk." Shamuk bowed and departed, murmuring, "Good afternoon, Your Highness," as he left. The atmosphere in the room was tense as Yunha listened to the conversation between the master and his guest. The master spoke with a calm, yet sharp tone. "I apologize for Shimduk's behavior. Please forgive her. I'll see to it that she learns some respect." The guest, seemingly unbothered, responded, "You should, as I am blind and cannot see to it myself. But I accept your apology. I can overlook a slip of the tongue." "Thank you, Your Highness," the master replied, before adding, "I've heard from the servants about the matter. Yang's name will be removed from the register immediately. In fact, I had meant to take her in, as my own soon. I assure you she will be free to stay in touch with her younger sister." "You will take her?" the guest questioned. "Yes, Your Highness," the master confirmed. "She has grown quite close to one of my sons. Out of concern for his future and reputation, I plan to keep her close to me. Taking her as a private mistress is just a pretext to get her off the register. She'll be safer with me than anywhere else." The guest's expression remained unreadable, but his voice held a hint of curiosity. "Will this be enough to relieve your anger, Your Highness? You've always had a penchant for rumors. I see now it's because you enjoy mingling with the baseborn." The master, dismissing the need for further explanation, waved his hand. "No need to explain. Just serve some drinks instead. This tea is the worst I've ever had." The servant flinched at the command. "You there, go bring us drinks and food. Make it quick." "Yes, my lord." The servant hurried out, fearful of the master's wrath. "If you'd like," the master offered, "I can have them fetch some girls as well. This is the hibiscus, after all. Our girls are the best thing on the menu." The guest laughed dryly, "I've no doubt. But I do doubt any of them would want to entertain a blind man. Wouldn't you agree?" His words dripped with sarcasm. "Isn't it amusing, Lord Yun? My former father-in-law, offering me whores while taking one in for himself. Meanwhile, Yunha was elsewhere in the estate when a familiar voice called out to her. Yunha?
Gari.
It was a friend of hers. I heard you haven't eaten all day. Would you like me to bring you some tiaks? No, I'm all right, Yunha replied, though her voice lacked conviction. Gari noticed her unease but decided to continue anyway. This is for you. Some nobleman asked me to pass it on. Yunha took the package and opened the letter, her eyes scanning the words. Dearest Yunha, here are some things I collected for you. They are of no further use to me, so do with them what you will. If you don't see a reason to keep them, feel free to throw them out. That way, I'll know my feelings for you don't mean much either. Remember, the place you're in is as dangerous as a tiger's den. Please take care until you can get out. Her hands trembled slightly as she read the letter. Gari noticed the change in her demeanor. Oh my, what is all this? Who is he, your lover? My what? Yunha stammered, shocked. That's not what he is at all. Are you sure? Gari teased. Just look at the things he sent you. I don't know much, but it's clear this man wants you. Yunha's heart pounded in her chest as her mind raced. He wants me? Before she could process further, the master entered, his expression cold and distant. Happy birthday, young master, Yunha said quietly, presenting him with a scroll she had made for him. I made you a scroll with a quote I like. It's nothing special, though. You don't even have to keep it. I'm sorry I couldn't get you something nicer. The master's voice softened just slightly. Don't be silly, Yunha. Even if I had the choice of the world's finest gifts, none would be more precious than yours. Yunha was taken aback by his response. No, that can't be true. But the moment of tenderness was short-lived. The master's tone turned harsh again. Burn it all. What? Yunha gasped, panicking. Master, wait, no. Please. You wouldn't dare keep traces of another man under my roof, would you? Dubbish, what man? What are you talking about? She cried, desperately trying to understand. The master's gaze was sharp and accusing. The man who sent you these. Lord Yun's bastard son, isn't it? Are you saying he's not a man? That's not what I meant. Yunha protested, her voice rising in fear. The master's grip on her tightened, his voice low but filled with warning. Don't do it, Yunha. Don't go. Tears welled up in her eyes as she bowed her head in submission.
Forgive me, master.
You can burn everything else, but please, not the scroll.